What's up, everybody? Southpaw Boxing Media back with another video for you guys. Finally, been away for a little over a week. Just had some personal stuff going on. Wanted to get on and do another video. So here we are. The last video I did was the second round of the Esports Boxing Club game giveaway on the Steam platform. Congrats to all the winners of that. So moving forward, guys, I wanted to kind of get back to what I started out doing on my channel, and that's reporting on boxing. My channel is definitely not one-dimensional. It is multifaceted. I'm going to be doing a lot of different things with my channel, but I haven't gotten into what's new in boxing for a bit, so let's get into that now, guys. So one of the biggest things I think is on a lot of people's minds as far as the boxing world is concerned is the state and the landscape of boxing, where it stands at the end of 2020, entering into 2021. Obviously, 2020 was not the best year. It was far from a stellar year as far as boxing and in general, right? We all know that. That said, we're at a really interesting situation, a really interesting time for sports and boxing in particular. And the reason I say that is every division from 130 pounds up has such a rich pool of talent. There's so much potential and so much talent in pretty much every division that, I mean, there's so many great fights that could be being made right now. Unfortunately, there's a lot of money grabbing, a lot of clout chasing going on right now. The clout chasing has been going on for a bit now, but I think it's kind of reaching its crescendo. I think it's reaching a peak, and I think a lot of people are getting really frustrated. A lot of whether you're a casual fight fan or a hardcore fight fan, there's just so many fights that we want to see, and they're just not getting made. And for one reason or another, and I think a lot of it, unfortunately, has to do with the promoters trying to money grab. They're trying to jockey for position. The politics of boxing is definitely one of the things that puts a damper on fights not happening. It gets in the way, unfortunately. It's part of the business. Most of us know that, but it doesn't make it any easier knowing that, right? It probably just frustrates people even more. That said, that's kind of the topic of the day, and I'm going to get into that now. So basically, where I'll start out with, and I know a lot of people have heard about this and were excited about it initially, is a fight between Ryan Garcia and Manny Pacquiao. A lot of people were like, ready for that fight, ready to see it. I was suspicious from the beginning. I called BS on it. And let me give you my thought process on why that is. So we all know that, Manny Pacquiao, A-Division world champion, I mean, he has worked his way from the bottom. He's just like Floyd Mayweather. They both have started from the bottom and just had an amazing career, and they both have, towards the end of their careers, which obviously Pacquiao is at in the twilight of his career, but he's making a ton of money, man, right? Like, he's bringing in a ton of money, a ton of revenue. He's a very popular fighter. He makes between $20 and $40 million a fight. And then you've got someone like Ryan Garcia, huge Instagram star, a popular fighter. He's a great fighter, don't get me wrong. But the reason I was so suspicious of this whole thing from the beginning is based on the numbers of his last fight with Luke Campbell. Having all these Instagram followers, I think the idea was that this pretty big fight with Luke Campbell was going to garner a lot of attention and get a lot of new fight fans transitioning over from his social media, right? Unfortunately, excuse me, a lot of his fight fans are longtime fight fans. They're, whether you're a casual fan or not, excuse me, these are fans that have been fans for a long time. And if you look at his Instagram followers, and again, this is no disrespect to Ryan Garcia, but most of them are teenage girls. Not many teenage girls are boxing fans as well. So that said, I think the idea with Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, which is Ryan Garcia's promoter, I think the thought process was, let's attach a name like Manny Pacquiao to Ryan Garcia, and it'll generate that excitement. It'll generate the electricity we need to transition some of these social media followers of his into fight fans. We can get a whole new generation of fight fans from it. Well, unfortunately, and I'll say this, yes, it garnered a lot of attention. It was like one of his most popular posts, I think, if not the most popular on Ryan Garcia's Instagram. So it, in a way, yes, it did the trick. It got people watching, taking notice, but unfortunately, according to Ryan Garcia, it was never going to happen. Now, he stated when he was on Fight Hype talking, excuse me, and he said that kind of called out Oscar De La Hoya, saying that initially uh, Ryan Garcia was told by Oscar De La Hoya that the fight was going to happen. They were in negotiations, and it was on its way. So he got a little overexcited, made his own homemade fight poster with him and Manny Pacquiao, and there we were. Everybody started talking about it, and then come to find out, Oscar De La Hoya, from I guess of his own admission, stated that it never was going to happen. It was an Instagram stunt to gain traction, gain new followers, and it seems in the video that Ryan Garcia was in said that he didn't know that. When he found out, he was very upset. Regardless of whether that's true or not, it doesn't really matter at this point. The damage has been done as far as him stating the fight was on, it was on its way, and we all know that that's not true. And my suspicions were confirmed correct. When De La Hoya came out and stated that it never was going to happen. The unfortunate thing here is that all these fighters, they have a blueprint that they could be following to a T right now to maximize their success, and not only that, but build their career, in an intelligent way, in a way that not only is fulfilling to them, but pleasing to the boxing fans. And I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather. Now, Floyd Mayweather had two separate careers, three actually, if you want to get technical. He had his first part of his career where he was Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather, fighting anybody and everybody to get to the top, right? Like, he didn't duck anyone. He fought all the hardest challengers. He took on all comers, and and that was what he was supposed to do. He was, as the boxer that wanted to become, who would then become Money Mayweather in the future. He had to, put the BS to the side and make sure that his promoter was getting him all the best fights. And he didn't care at the time if he wasn't making the millions and millions of dollars. He knew that time for him to make that money would come. It was about proving himself. It was about positioning himself to be the A side. And when his opportunity came, he took it with Oscar De La Hoya. He knew he was going to be the B side in that fight, but you know what? He didn't care. He knew after that fight he would never be the B side again. And these young fighters could be following this blueprint of the Pretty Boy Floyd. You take that first. You fight all the hardest competition. You work your way up, absolutely, but you don't get one or two decently, sought after fights, like considered high profile fights, and then say that you've accomplished everything you need to accomplish to be a Money Mayweather, to be that status. And unfortunately, instead of following the blueprint to a T, they all these fighters want to skip out on the Pretty Boy part of the blueprint. They want to skip right to the Money Mayweather, where they're all making, tens and 20 into the tens and 20 millions of dollars per fight. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. They want instant gratification. It's the social media era. Basically, it's everybody wants what they want right then. They want to be put on notice right away. They want everybody to take notice of them. And I think, again, going back, I think that's why Ryan Garcia and his promotion team did. I think after his last fight, they didn't see the numbers that they wanted to see against Campbell, so they pulled a little stunt. And, I say shame on them, honestly. And it's just unfortunate because these guys, they idolize someone like Floyd Mayweather, and they say they want to be just like him, but they only want to be like Money Mayweather. They don't want to put in the work, like I said. And, an example of that, unfortunately, again, is Teofimo Lopez. Now, I know there's a lot of people love Teo. I do too. I think he's a great fighter, and I think he has proved a lot more than someone like Ryan Garcia thus far. He stepped up early on. I mean, he has less fights than Ryan Garcia, but they're right around the same. I'll have to look. I know it's close, but I know Ryan's got a few more. and don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's close. Anyway, but here's the deal. I mean, he stepped up and he fought Richard Comey for the IBF title, and he beat him. And obviously, he beat him in very, very convincing fashion, right? Um, he knocked him out. He stopped him, and then he went on and fought the biggest fight of his career thus far with Vasyl Lomachenko. And so I can't down him for that, but because he did some great things. But he's only had two, maybe three bigger fights, and all of a sudden now he's up there thinking he's a Money Mayweather. He's pricing himself out. He's asking for $10 million to fight Devin Haney, but he's doing a lot of things that don't make much sense either. And I don't know if it's just because they're new to this whole deal, like him and his father, in the promotional deal. I know, they're not doing it alone, but Tio Senior is his manager, and I think they're just too new to it for one thing. So they need to watch what they say, because it's not like the old days where you can talk and it doesn't necessarily get out. And by the time it does, you can do damage control. It's not like that anymore. That instant gratification works both ways. That instant news, having social media and the internet, works both ways, because yeah, you can get what you want to say out there fast and people will hear it. But if you say something that isn't true, or if you change your mind from one video to the next, people are going to see you as a hypocrite. They're going to see you as a liar. And with regard to Teofimo Lopez and Tio Senior, they have gone back and forth to say that they want to fight people like Devin Haney, and then they don't want to fight him. They've said, I don't know how many times, back and forth, from one day to the next. And then not only that, but then they finally say, yeah, we'll fight Devin Haney for $10 million, which Teofimo Lopez hasn't gotten close to making $10 million, right? So I was kind of baffled why he'd even ask for that amount of money anyway. Devin Haney's a great fighter, but he's not even worth $10 million yet. So this is a situation of pricing yourself out because you think you're Money Mayweather. You think you have that status when you're still should be in the Pretty Boy Floyd status. It just doesn't make sense to me. And then the other thing that really doesn't make sense as far as Teofimo Lopez goes is he does all this, and then he decides to go and fight George Kambosos Jr., who, yeah, is his IBF mandatory. But the IBF came out and said that he lobbied for that fight. He could have taken another fight. They were happy to allow him to sidestep that fight for now and fight for bigger money against someone like Devin Haney. Would he have gotten $10 million? No, I'd have. But he probably could have made $4 to $5 million, right? Instead, he took $1.2 million to fight someone that hardly anybody knows about. If you're a hardcore boxing fan, yeah, we know about George Kambosos Jr. Is he a big name? No. I mean, he's an Australian fighter. He's a decent fighter, but he's nowhere on the level of a Devin Haney or even a Ryan Garcia, in my opinion. And so, to me, that whole thing just did not make much sense, especially finding out that even though he was his mandatory, he did not have to fight him right now. And he asked for less money to do it, which is very baffling to me. It's just, I mean, I guess the one part of it that I have some respect for is that he didn't try to ask for like $4 million or $5 million for someone like George Kambosos Jr., because he wouldn't get it anyway. But these are things that are. This is a situation where I don't actually blame the promoter, because his promoter actually wanted him to fight someone like Devin Haney. ESPN wanted him to fight someone like Devin Haney, because this fight with George Kambosos Jr. does nothing, absolutely nothing for anybody except George Kambosos Jr. I mean, and obviously I don't think George is going to win that fight by any means, but then he'll get recognition from a new audience, from the American audience. So that does something for him. But for Teofimo Lopez, he's expected to beat him. And so I mean, besides it being his mandatory, it does nothing. And again, he didn't have to take this fight right now. So that a lot of people are going to see that as him ducking someone like Devin Haney that he could have fought. Or even someone like Tank Davis. I know he's talking, oh, well, Tank hasn't had, he's not a 135-pounder. And Tio is a big 135-pounder. But it doesn't matter. The fight still could be made. And all these guys, the four kings, as they call it, all these guys. Devin Haney, in my opinion, is the only one that's not clowning. And I think Tank, I don't think he's clowning really either. I don't really like what happened with his little stunt on Instagram between him and Brian Norman Jr. Apparently, there was some information leaked about a couple sparring sessions between Tank Davis and Brian Norman Jr. And they weren't actually leaked by Brian Norman Jr. apparently, but he did go on record saying yes, that they had sparred, and yes, that Brian Norman Jr. had gotten the best of Tank Davis in these sparring sessions. And then Tank Davis came out, and I think to try to do a little damage control, posted a picture that was apparently photoshopped, but in the picture it showed Brian Norman Jr.'s nose looking all jacked up and broken. And he said, Tank stated that his nose looked like a doorknob after they were done sparring. And then in response to that, Brian Norman Jr. came on and showed the real picture after they sparred, which showed his face untouched. It was no marks on it. So I mean, things like this, they don't look good. And I get there's a lot of pride in boxing. You know, these fighters have a lot of pride. And that's just one small part of it. That's not the biggest and most important thing. That's why I think Tank Davis isn't really, you know, I don't think he's ducking. And I don't necessarily think he's trying to cash himself out either. I think Mayweather is trying to bring him along in a similar way to how he was brought along. So I think Tank Davis and Devin Haney are actually probably the least of the problems when it comes to this situation that we're seeing now with these fighters pricing themselves out and ducking each other for whatever reason. It's not good for the sport, and it's unfortunate because, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're in a really interesting and potentially great time in boxing. You know, as I stated earlier, each division is so stacked with talent. There's so much talent in every division. We could be seeing some of the most amazing fights that we've ever seen. You know, a throwback era to when all the greatest fighters faced each other and didn't get caught up in the hoopla of what their purse is going to be, what percentage, who was the A side, who was the B side. You know, I think it would be amazing to see that. I don't know that we necessarily will. The politics of boxing is an unfortunate thing because it ruins a lot of the fights that could happen, and fights that happen too late or don't happen at all. You know, and again, that's kind of the focus and was the point of my video today, was kind of talk about what the landscape of the boxing world looks like right now, and potentially what it could look like going forward if these younger boxers just decided to, you know, get control of their promoters for one, not let their promoters dictate everything that happens. You know, they need to work together and man, stop being so greedy. It's a business, yes, but you know, if you're not doing it for the love of the sport, man, then what's the point, right? And if you're passionate about boxing the way that a lot of hardcore fans like myself are, you know, we understand, again, that there is a business side to boxing, and that's fine. You know, that's obviously got to be the case, but it's just frustrating, and I know a lot of people want to see these fights made between all the top boxers. You know, the four kings, like I talked about, and there's Shakur Stevenson in that as well. He's right there with them, and he may be the most talented out of all of them, honestly. But then you've got, you know, Terrence Crawford and Earl Spence Jr. All these fights that we want to see, all the way up to heavyweight with the trilogy match between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. I just really hope going forward that things go a little bit more smoothly in 2021. Here's to being optimistic. And I'm going to end there, guys. I just wanted to, you know, kind of give an overview video. I haven't done one in a while. Also, I want to announce that, you know, I've got some exciting news coming up from the Esports Boxing Club world. There's some pretty awesome announcements coming up that I'm going to be making a video on in the next couple of days. The biggest news that's come out since the game was announced. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel, make sure you turn on the bell icon to get all the notifications from the newest videos, because I will be dropping a lot more of the esports videos soon, and there's going to be a lot of great information. Also, look out for my giveaway videos. I'm going to be doing a lot more prize videos, giveaway videos in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for those. I appreciate everybody's support, all the love, all the feedback. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe, guys. Leave comments down below. That's all I got for you guys today. This is Southpaw Boxing, out for now. Peace, guys.